Oh my god.
Guys, on today's episode, it's all about trading. What are we doing with aces like Logan Gilbert, Zach Gallen, and Jesus Luzardo? And then we got some bats like Jackson Holliday and Marcelo Ozuna on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Wane. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube, and if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, make sure you subscribe. And if you're on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you do that for us as well. And guys, you know what's going to put you over the top and help you win that Locked On Fantasy Baseball Championship this year? Join Matt and I on the Insiders Track, where we offer so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes, like instant prospect call-up notifications. And we also offer, when we do our waiver wire shows, we rank those guys for you and tell you how you should prioritize them when you're picking them up. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And all right, guys, you know what we do this time of the week? You know, we're talking about guys you need to trade for and guys you need to get off of your team and trade away. And listen, we got a bunch of aces or former aces on today's episode. Got a bunch of great bats, so make sure you're locked on for the whole thing. And Matt, who are we talking about first today, my brother?
All right, we are talking about Mr. Logan Gilbert of the Seattle Mariners. Now, Gilly is the excellent nickname that I've deemed him for years, has had a terrible, terrible month. And quite honestly, it's time to try and go out and get him. Obviously, we all know he's a top-end pitcher, a guy that's been consistent over the last couple of years and has been progressively getting better and stepped into an SP1 status after last year. This year, not so wonderful. 55 innings pitched, 79 strikeouts, 3.88 ERA and a 102 whip and 2 wins. Now, the strikeouts to innings ratio is fantastic, right? Like that is something that has stayed consistent from last year. The ERA is way up. And that's really due to the fact that this last month he's just been getting clobbered. Got lit up against the Yankees, posted an 8.44 ERA. Got lit up against the Rangers, posted a 6.75 ERA. Lit up against the Cubs, they're letting up everybody with a 7.20 ERA. Like things just haven't been pretty over the last month, but other than that, has been pretty solid over the years. You also look under the hood and you start saying, okay, well, is it really that bad? Well, the expected ERA is actually a 2.92. The expected batting average against him is a 2.08. His fastball velocity is doing just fine at 95.4 miles an hour. The average exit velocity is high right now, which is probably part of the problem. We'll get into that. He's getting guys to chase at a great rip at 33%, creating whiffs 35.9% of the time, getting strikeouts literally 35.1% of the time, and barely walking anybody. Look, his fastball's looking a little flat. His breaking balls are looking a little fat, but his off-speed pitches are killing it right now. He's killing it with his four-seam fastball, even though I want to call it a four-seam flat ball since it's been flat, but he still only has a 2.22 batting average against it. His split finger is going at a 102 batting average against the kid. He throws that 21% of the time. The slider is the one that needs a little bit of work. That has a 267 batting average against him. But again, still not atrocious. So I look at this and I look at the pitch mix and I go, he's just had probably a little bit of bad luck and probably just needs to figure out his grip on that slider and things kind of get a little bit more ridiculous. Sorry for the lightning in the background. It's just been storming in Pennsylvania these days. He's a guy that gives up home runs and still manages to keep his ERA and statistics down. So these are these blow-up games that come in strides, and these are the things that we just got to be aware of. I think eventually he'll correct. Logan Gilbert is still young as hell, being that he's only 28 years old as a stud pitcher that's only been in the league for about 4 years. I think that he's totally a sweet value right now, being that people are probably disappointed, especially with the pitching landscape going on. I'm definitely willing to spend 75 to 85% on the dollar to try and go out and get him. And I think there's some guys that are overperforming right now that will allow you to do that on top of teams probably being riddled with injuries because I feel like I'm playing fantasy football this year and it's just guys going down left and right. So I feel like Logan Gilbert is a perfect guy to go and try and acquire and fill a team's holes and make them feel a little bit more secure.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Gilbert. I only have one thing to add. People might have forgot Gilbert missed all of May, half of June. He's only had 5 starts since he's been back from injury. So he's just kind of finding his footing again. Matt, you mentioned after last year, monster numbers last year from Gilbert, 33 starts, 3.23 ERA, 208 innings, 220 strikeouts, and an 0.88 whip. I mean, Gilbert's always been good with his control, but over the years, he's just fine-tuned it, working with guys like George Kirby over there in Seattle. He's just really taken it to the next level. And I really thought Gilbert was on his way to, taking that next step, like Matt was talking, potentially like SP1, like a top 12 starting pitcher upside here for. And I still think he has it. He's young enough. He's 28 this year. The strikeouts are there. The whip has been still really good, even though a couple of bad outings here since he's been back from injury. ERA is super high, but this is, like Matt said, this is your chance to go out and trade for an ace, a potential player like Logan Gilbert. But let's move on to another guy. Don't believe in him. I don't believe in him as much as I believe in Gilbert, but I think he does have top 24, top 30 starting pitcher upside. Zach Gallen, starting pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. His last 2 starts have been monstrous. He went out on July 1st against those San Francisco Giants, 7 innings, got the win, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run, and an 0.7 whip. And then he went up against the Padres. Pretty good lineup on July 7th, 6 innings, got the win, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs, and a 1 whip. And guess what? Guess who Gallen's next start is against? On Saturday, he gets the Angels. So I'm telling you, this is like kind of a, hey, I want to get this trade done right now. Like, I want to pause the podcast, reach out to the Zach Gallen owner, and you kind of want to sneak him into your lineup for that next start on Saturday because those Angels have been atrocious. Listen, you get past Mike Trout and I don't know. Who else is there? Taylor Ward. I don't know if Rengifo's healthy. He hasn't been healthy most of the year, so I'm not sure. But Zach Gallen, I do like him. We know who he's been in the past. He's been an ace. I don't think he'll ever get back to acedom and just be who he used to be. But hey, listen, can he pitch to a mid-3s ERA with that K per 9 being pretty strong and a decent whip? I'm not expecting it to be fantastic, but you know what? Could it be better than it's been so far this year? Yeah, but even last year he had a 1.26, and he's only had 1 or 2 really good whip years. So listen, a mid-3s ERA, 1.2 whip over that K per 9. I think that's what we could expect from Zach Gallen the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, Gallen's been honestly the biggest disappointment of the season. I'm truly disappointed, but at the same time, if we can even see a little bit of resurgence, it's worth an upside swing. I don't think you're going to have to pay a premium whatsoever, and that's the key part. And when it comes to that, that's like making a waiver wire pickup that you're just going to be a little bit of patient with. Yeah, you're going to give up an asset that might be performing in the moment, but at the same time, hey, why not take a shot? Because the upside outweighs losing a player that's just performing now versus focusing on the future. So that's kind of the key parts here. So Zach Gallen is definitely a trade for. Great take, Dom. I would like to hop into the next guy, but I'm not going to because you know what? I feel like I should just tease you guys and make you wait just a little bit longer to hear about why I'm trading for Chase Burns. And am I actually holding on to Jackson Holliday or am I trying to trade for him or trade him away? That's all coming up next. Mute button.
All right, guys. Now I'm not muted. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Absolutely not. You called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale your customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Did you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one phone number and can respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this, and the AI agent even handles all after-hour calls, answering common questions and captured leads, so you never miss a customer again. Open Phone is offering Locked On Fantasy Baseball show listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And that's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. And all right, guys, one last thing here before we jump back in. I know it's a tough time of year. I know we're all, at some point in our fantasy league. Listen, some of you guys probably out there doing great because you probably listen to us all year long. But listen, some of us are struggling. I know there's even a couple of leagues I'm in where I'm not doing so great. And what's going to help put you guys over the top is joining Matt and I on the Insider's Track, where we're going to give you those instant prospect notable qualifications like Chase Burns when he got called up and the rest of these great names that are still on the way, like the potential Kevin McGonigal call up. You're going to want to be on the Insider's Track for that. And guys, we just offer so much more than we can these 30 minutes, episodes. So join us on the Insider's Track. The link's in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, or available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, Matt, I know you teased it. I know you said you were excited to talk about him. So I'm going to give you the opportunity. Matt, you can talk about Chase Burns.
Yes, sir. So Chase Burns here. He comes out electric. I'm not even going to lie. Look, first outing, even though it was against the Yankees and he posted a 5.4 ERA, he actually looked absolutely stellar in his first 5 innings. Watched the game, obviously. 5 innings straight, got 8 Ks and a 1-2 whip. Look, it could have been a lot worse for a guy coming out against the Yankees facing that lineup with the Jazz, the Stantons, the Judges, etc., and the way Goldschmidt's just crushing that ball this year. Now, he goes out, he whiffs, he does everything he needs, and just unfortunately gives up a little bit of home runs. Next outing, Boston decides to light him up like a Christmas tree on the lighting of essentially what's the word I'm looking for? Rockefeller Center. There's a whole ceremony going on. Everybody's watching. It's just bad. But then handles the Phillies. And the Phillies are a really good team. Phillies are a team that honestly could clubber anybody. They're up there with the Dodgers, the Yankees, etc. this year. And he did it at Philly in a park that is a better hitter park. Went 4.5 innings, 7 Ks, a 1.93 ERA, and a 1.29 whip. Look, that game was stellar. He looked good. The only reason he got pulled was the manager realized, okay, he might get in some trouble, but he still managed to whiff 7 in 4.5 innings. You're kidding me. This is something you need to get a part of. He's going to have his blow-up games. There's no doubt about it. It reminds me a lot of Hunter Green. Hunter Green got to throw super hard like Chase Burns. Wants to strike out everybody and their mother, going to have high whips, and sometimes puts himself in troubles that lead to, essentially higher ERAs. But when those games come together and he just has everything rolling, he is going to be momentous. He's actually 50% owned too. So if he's out on your waiver wires, he's a must add. But if you're in a league where people are smart and savvy, you need to add him because I try and trade for him because I think they're kind of on the fence about what to do with him. And this is the perfect buying opportunity for pennies. And this is probably the last time you can. So go out, trade for Chase Burns immediately.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Burns. Reason that he was a high-end top 5 prospect in all of baseball before he got the call. He's going to be really good. Just some growing pains here for the young starting pitcher, as Matt mentioned. But, Matt, you broke him down really, really well. I don't think I have too much to add here on Chase Burns. So I'm just going to move on to the next guy. Let's talk about Jackson Holliday. Jackson Holliday has been getting really hot of late. The last month he has been on, a nice little tear here. He has 110 at-bats, 13 runs, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 4 steals, 264 batting average. And this is a kid that's still in his very early 20s, figuring it out. And look at his last 2 games. 2 for 4 with a home run on July 8th, 2 RBIs in that one. 4 for 4 on July 6th with 2 RBIs and a home run. It looks like he's finally starting to catch his stride. He's been leading off, for a bit there over in Baltimore. I think the runs upside is going to be really good if the rest of his team can be able to figure it out. Batting average upside is there too with the young kid. I really think there's I want to say like top 3 round potential here for Jackson Holliday. I think he could be like almost what like a Jaron Duran did last year. A lot of steals, good amount of power, think the runs and RBIs could be good on this Orioles team if they could figure it out. A kid that could potentially be a 300 hitter. I really love Jackson Holliday, and the reason the kid was drafted number 1 overall is the reason he has the prospect pedigree. Dad's, a former All-Star. His younger brother's about to be the number 1 pick in the next MLB draft. So I love me some Jackson Holliday, and he's another kid. Like I said, just these young players. We were so spoiled for a few years with the Acuñas, the Sotos, the Tatises that came up and performed right away. Sometimes it takes time. Progression isn't always linear, and I think Jackson Holliday is still a kid that we should go out there, and you probably don't have to pay a lot. I don't think the Jackson Holliday owner is holding on for dear life unless he's their only second baseman, which he very well might be at this point in the season. But I think a lot of high upside here with Jackson Holliday. Go out there and try and acquire him where you can.
Yeah, no, I love me some Jackson Holliday, in all honesty. He's somebody that, I was trying to draft everywhere in the beginning because the value was just there. And that kind of just made it the start off to the season. Everything kind of came in. Looks like the league adjusted, but now he might be adjusting back, which tells you we might see a stellar second half. I want that. Great take, Dom. I am fully on board. Let's go out and acquire him. Our last, no, second to last, pretty much buy low guy. Marcelo Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves, outfielder. So he has been terrible this year, like outright terrible. Over the last month, 5 runs, a bomb, 12 ribs, batting 194. He's hitting 238 on the season after having a season in 2024 that made him a top 12 outfielder. He had 96 runs, 39 bombs, 104 ribs, a stolen base bat at 302. Well, Marcelo Ozuna, what has happened? We don't know. But the underlying stats don't support the stat books. Ex-WOBA of 376, expected batting average of actually 265. The expected slug should be at 479. The average exit velocity is sitting 91.3 miles an hour. He's barreling 10.7% on creating hard contact 50% of the time, and walking a lot. Now, I just I can't really pinpoint one thing that's really like saying, hey, this is the reason why he's hitting so poorly. I mean, yeah, he's barreling a little bit less than last year. His launch angle may be a little bit down, but everything else pretty much seems like, hey, he should be performing a lot better. So what does that tell us? I need to go out and buy him. I need to go out and try to acquire him, because if he decides to turn it on the second half, which sometimes we see this, a player that had an awesome year before and then has a terrible first half, the second half comes out and everybody didn't expect it, and this kid lights up the world. So I'm going to try and go out and acquire Marcelo Ozuna on the cheap, and I mean cheap, like 35 cents on the dollar. I ain't paying 50 cents on the dollar, 35 cents on the dollar with an overperforming player on this episode. And I'll probably put 2 of these guys together, and I think I might be able to get it done. Ozuna might be somebody that they're desperately frustrated with and need to get off their team. So go out, trying to buy him cheap as hell.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on Ozuna here. You broke down all the underlying stuff, which really says that, this guy should be performing a lot better than he has been. He had a really strong first 2 months and then just hit a cliff in June where he hit under 200, only 2 home runs. I really think these summer warm months are going to help Ozuna figure it out. He had a monster year last year, and unless he's hurt, I know Ozuna's a guy who has tried to play through injuries in the past. So if he's banged up right now and he's trying to play through an injury, that could be what's hurting him. But there's no reason this guy shouldn't be hitting at least a little bit better. So Matt, you did a great job on Marcelo Ozuna there. So I think we need to go out there and acquire him, like you said. But before we get into names like Jesus Luzardo, Lucas Giolito, and Trevor Story and tell you what we are doing with them, those names and more coming up next. I think you're muted, Matt.
Ah, God, the both of us. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The cracking of a bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking for a go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets even easy. Wait for last minute deals, all in one pricing, lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, tickets prices drop as the game gets closer, meaning you can score incredible deals. If you just, feel like going down the game, which I do a lot, funny enough, and I use Game Time doing this for a while, I'll go and I'll sit at Xfinity Live, which is across from the Phillies Park, and I'll just wait and see if there's a price I want. And if I like it, I go inside. So that's what I do when I want to go to a Phillies game or even an Eagles game, which never, but maybe for my wife, but mainly Phillies games. That's what I do. And I find the best deals with effortless. It filters out all the fluff and highlights the top discounts on in the stadium. And I also too, I get views from my seat. So essentially I make sure I'm not sitting behind a pole or some weird spot where I can only see a good part of the field. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account, use redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And all right. So that was a lot of talking. Dom, I am going to hand it back over. Go for it, my friend.
Yeah, let's jump in here. Let's talk about Jesus Luzardo, and he's a tough one for me, man. You could almost go either way here on Luzardo, right? Because he was way better in the first half. He was a top 12 pitcher for like the first month and a half, and we really thought he had figured it out. And now he's just kind of been struggling to, I want to say the finish line, but we're not even at the All-Star break yet. So, he's kind of just been struggling to the All-Star break here. Had a good start his last time out. It was at San Francisco, though not a great team. I don't know, man. I kind of want to say I want to get what I can for Luzardo at the moment. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to rebound off of this. He's notoriously bad in the second half for his career, over a 4 ERA in the second half. Not that his first half ERA is much better. I just think that little 2-year run in Miami kind of had us fooled. I think that 2022 and 2023, run he had in Miami really made us buy back in. Had a lackluster season last year, even though he got banged up. And, even a lot of the underlying stuff, doesn't really – tell me that, he's going to be, great the rest of the way. So, when I look at everything on the whole, I'm kind of going to go out there and see if I could find somebody that believes that Luzardo is going to bounce back like, he was, or at least do as good as he was doing in the first month. And if I can get anything of significance for him, I'd go out there and get it. If I can't get at least, 90 cents on the dollar, probably not going to do it for Luzardo. When I say 90 cents on the dollar, I don't mean of, like draft day value. I mean of probably where he'd be valued at by most people right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably, how could we kind of like gauge his worth? Like I would probably trade him for Jackson Holliday or
I would do that.
Or a Marcelo Ozuna, or honestly anybody on this list. I mean, you're not getting Logan Gilbert for him. Like that's just not happening. But like Luzardo for Gallon, I think the upside is on the Gallon side than the Luzardo side, and I'd probably even try and get Gallon and something just to make it look like okay, I'm selling high on him, and then eventually settle. But like I'm kind of okay with it, but I'm also kind of okay with trying to acquire him and seeing if there is a second half.
I agree. I could see that.
There's a world where like okay, I don't have to give up much. Like okay, cool, he's performing really bad. You've seen what he's done last year, and if you're not playing in Philly, it's probably easier to go out and get him. So like, I also kind of want to see if I can grab him anywhere. So Luzardo's like, I'm going to capitalize if I have him, and if I don't have him and my pitching is lackluster, or I could afford to carry a guy like this and be patient, then yeah, I'll try and acquire him. But let's move on. Let's talk about Lucas Giolito. Now, Giolito has been better of late. Let's put it that way. Gio's been, much better than I thought he would this whole season. And we got yelled at in the comments of, not talking about his new release and where he's doing it and how that's been, going out to his success, right? Like, hey, we're seeing it over a month span where he has 32 innings, 31 strikeouts, 4 wins, and putting up a .83 ERA with a .92 whip. He's been fantastic. Do not get me wrong. But it's coming against Colorado, Washington, who's been up and down, Toronto, who's been up and down, San Francisco, who really hasn't done much, Seattle, who honestly, some games can't even buy a home run. Then it comes up against Tampa Bay, who again has been better of late, but then this is early June, and then gets lit up against the Angels, handles Atlanta, Baltimore just fine, but then gets lit up against Atlanta again. And then we can just keep going on and on. He's been better of late, but he hasn't played a team that really puts him to the test. Now, and it's not like any team is coming up soon. Tampa Bay's on the next one up. So, I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, I'm going to sell him to somebody that believes in the adjustments that he's made. I'm going to sell him and anybody who's struggling in their rotation and trying to acquire an underperforming player, such as a Zach Gallen, such as a Marcelo Ozuna. I'm going to try and acquire these players. Excuse me. And I think you could get it done now, not just for Giolito, but somebody with him and some of the other overperforming players on this episode. This is a weird episode where I think a lot of these guys can be acquired outside of, Gilbert for two overperforming players. Giolito is somebody that I'd rather have on somebody else's team than and killing me on a week than him blowing up on my team and missing the opportunity to sell. So I'm going to sell Lucas Giolito.
Yeah, man, this is a total landmine, bro. You said exactly what I was going to get at. It's a lot of weak matchups. I know the changeup has looked a little bit better for him, but honestly, that's really about it. The fastball's got decent movement, but all the underlying stuff screams that this is a landmine. The xERA is at a 4.79. X batting average is at 287. His fastball velocity is still down over a mile an hour from his peak back in like 2019. Not getting anybody to whiff, not getting anybody to chase. Strikeouts have been better of late. The hard hit rate's bad. He's not getting ground balls. I don't care where he's releasing the ball from. I understand that it affects pitches and the way they move and, the break and all that stuff. I get it. But I still think, it's still a 3.66 ERA and a 1.28 whip on the season. He's still under a K per nine. So it's still not like the total of, the total sum of the parts is great. It's not. If you need a hold on, you're in an AL only, and that's all you got, and you picked him up, and he's more valuable in deeper leagues than shallower leagues. I'll put it to you like that. But if you can go out there and trade him for a top 30 starting pitcher, you do that all day long. If you have to add a little something else, I'll do that as well. But let's move on. Let's talk about Lucas Giolito's teammate, Trevor Story, who's been a top 10 hitter over the last month for fantasy baseball purposes. And he has been on some kind of tear, but we know Trevor Story is the name of the game with him, man. He's never going to be the guy he was in Colorado. He's never going to give you that batting average. He does have power and speed, don't get me wrong, and the counting stats might be all right there, but I just don't think he's going to be fantastic. Over the last 30 days, 102 at-bats, 19 runs, 7 homers, 25 RBIs, 5 steals, and a 3.14 batting average for Story. So with that being said, man, I'm just not buying in on the long-term value. The batting average is going to fall, and with that, there's not going to be as much, counting stats. I don't think he's going to be able to run at this rate forever without getting hurt. The guy's also made of glass. He's not on the top floor with, Mondesi and Buxton and all those guys. But listen, he's got himself a nice little suite there, somewhere in the middle because Trevor Story is always banged up. I just don't want him on my team for the playoff run because whether it's going to be underperformance or injury, I don't think he's going to give you what you need when you need him the most.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Trevor Story is just kind of like washed up in my opinion. He's going to have hot months and he's going to be a guy I'm going to stream or try and sell high like we're talking about now. I just don't think he's going to get you a hell of a lot, but he might be a guy that's a needle mover at the end of a trade. Let's move on for time. Willie Adames of the San Francisco Giants. He's a guy that is overperforming in a lot of ways, and I kind of want to just take advantage of people that are wanting to buy back in on the Adames that we called a bust going into the season. So he's still 82% owned and climbing over this, which I wouldn't have held him for anything, nor would I have drafted him. Over the last month, he has 20 runs, 6 bombs, 19 ribs, 1 stolen base, batting 305. And he's looking good, but all the underlying stats say otherwise. Honestly, he's moved, to a park that is not great for hitting. He went from Milwaukee to now San Francisco, and you know what? It's not a guy that really just like crushes the ball. Like his average exit velocity this year is 89.3 miles an hour. Last year it was 88 miles an hour. And there's a difference. San Francisco is a hard place to hit bombs. So power is going to dip. I don't think we're going to see the home run numbers that we saw last year with 32. Batting average is down. And the batting average is just explained by, a guy that hasn't really been a picture of batting average. He's a career 246 hitter. And you know what? Like, what? Last year he had 251. The year before that he had 217, then 238 and 262. Like, it's just like it's all over the place. But the consistency over the last since 2022 to 2025, 4 years now, 4 full seasons since 22, is hitting well under 240. And I just
234 over the last 4 years.
Right. And that's ugly. So do we really buy into Adames? Absolutely not. So I'm going to sell him just with the name value and the hype that was surrounded him coming into the season.
Yeah, man, we tried to warn everybody, man. I just told you it wasn't going to work out for Adames here in San Francisco. So while he's been hot over the last month, you might be able to capitalize over the last month. 95 at bats for Adames, 20 runs, 6 homers, 19 RBIs, a steal, 305. Here's your arguably last chance out. And listen, 92 games played for Adames, which is tied for the league on the year. Only 11 home runs and 4 steals. In 161 games last year, 32 home runs, 21 steals. It was a contract year. He did what he had to do to get paid, and he did. But you know what, guys? That's pretty much all for today. So shout out to our everydayers and listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB and make him your second listen each and every day. But guys, until next time.
Peace.